Welcome back here on a special segment of the Michigan Soccer Central podcast. One of the wonderful things about this game we love is we are able to talk this week about the local game, about teams playing right in our backyards. But now we look to the weekend as the Women's World Cup kicks off. And I've invited a local authority on the matter. We've got U of M women's head coach Jennifer Klein with us to talk about World Cup. Thank you so much for joining Michigan Soccer Central podcast.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I'm excited. It's the World Cup every 4 years. It's always a blast when it comes around. Lots of soccer to watch, and it's going to be exciting.
I'd like to get into the tournament broader in a second, but I wanted to ask you just straight off the bat, can the USA pull a three-peat?
I think everyone is rooting for that, right? But I do think, there's probably some challenges that they face. Although I feel with so many countries having as many injuries as they've had, some strong teams like England, Sweden, Germany, all have had some different injuries in the last year. So I think it makes their chances even better. But I definitely would love to see if they could do a three-peat. That'd be pretty impressive.
You've got yourself an impressive coaching career, obviously, University of Michigan women's head coach. And I understand you've actually had the opportunity to coach some players that are going to feature in this year's World Cup.
Yeah, it's at some of my previous institution. I have some players that are playing, and then we have two Michigan alums, Jade and Shalina, that are playing with Canada. They're coming off of their Olympic gold medal from the last, the most recent Olympics. So definitely have them, and then the three other players. So with the U.S., Savannah DeMello, I coached her at USC. I coached a Dom Randall, that is now with the Philippines, and then an Ashley Plumpter who's playing with Nigeria. So the Canada Nigeria game is going to be, I might be a little bit house divided as I have a few players on each team. That might be when I'm hoping for a draw, right? So they both get points and I don't have to pick between the two.
That is quite a unique feeling. Have you seen your players play against each other in like high level tournaments in other ways before?
I know that Canada and Nigeria played in a friendly within the last probably year and a half, but that was a closed door one, so I haven't gotten a chance to see them compete against each other. So it'll be fun. I think it'll be really great to see, especially our Michigan alums with Canada, and then a former player, Ashley Plumpter, with Nigeria. So that should be great. But yeah, we'll see how it goes.
When you had them on your squads, did you think that these players were World Cup players back then?
Yeah, I think they always had, either some technical or tactical qualities that you just knew that they were something special. More specifically, I didn't coach Shalina when she was here at Michigan. She was under one of the previous coaches, but Jade was one here that just had a different way about her. She had played in the World Cup in France right before coming to Michigan. And that experience, I think, was really unique, but she was one of the younger players that was on that team. And since then, she's had other opportunities with Canada, and just her experience, her maturity, her way of just approaching the game just grew and evolved over that time. And by the time that last season was, you just knew like this was going to be a player that was going to do something pretty special. So it's really great to see her growth, and I'm very excited to see what she does. As far as the other three players at USC, yeah, they were all excellent college players. They really were. I think one that's most impressive is Dom Randall, and it's more because of, as a collegiate player, she was very very uh, injury prone. She had a lot of injuries in her college career, and got towards the end of her college career, and we all thought she was done, retired. Like just had a lot of knee stuff, just couldn't do it. And she kind of out of nowhere was like, you know what? I have ties to the Philippines. I think I'm going to give it a go. And went with them for qualifying. They qualified for the World Cup, and now she's going to a World Cup. So that's the journey I think that's the most impressive, just because of of the injuries that she experienced through her college career, basically moving on to, a regular job and then deciding to go back to being a soccer player was like, everybody was just like, of course Dom would do this. Of course Dom would, go do that. So that's the one that's probably the most impressive of all of them, just because of what she had to go through to get there.
And who will she be competing for?
She's with the Philippines.
Okay, and is she one of like the prominent players? Will we see a lot of her? Do you think?
I hope that we do. I know during their qualifying she played quite a bit, and so we'll see what she does now that they're in. But qualifying, she was in the squad for a lot of their games. So hopefully she'll get some good opportunity now that they're starting right sometime tomorrow or today, right, with the time change.
Yeah, we are recording late Wednesday night, like really on the eve of the tournament. Um, Outside of the unfortunate news that came across today from New Zealand, just soccer wise, like what is your feeling going into this edition of the tournament?
I think it's really great that the tournament is expanded. I think having 32 teams is something that is great for the women's game. I think so much of the world is investing more and more into women's soccer, and you're seeing it at the pro levels and everything like that, which I think is great. So that part I think is really exciting, and it's great that you have teams that have the opportunity to have their World Cup debut. How awesome that you get a few of those countries. So I'm really looking forward to it. It is a bit unfortunate that you've had the shooting in New Zealand. Hopefully that it wasn't anything affiliated with the World Cup being there. Us being in the US, unfortunately, we experienced that uh, way too often. But I hope they're able to get it all sorted, and we definitely think of them, and hope that it doesn't take away too much from the World Cup that's about to be there.
Uh, yeah, it's a shame, but but the tournament itself, I agree with you. It is great to see that there's going to be quite a few debutantes, and amongst those, I'm curious how they fare. We remember last edition when USA played Thailand. The score lines kind of made for some headlines. So I'm kind of curious if we're going to see more of that, or if the entry point for the new teams is going to be higher this time.
Yeah, I think one game people are probably looking at, will it be very similar to the last World Cup, is going to be US versus Vietnam. That's one that you're kind of like, okay, what will that score line look like? But I do remember, so I was fortunate enough to be in France for the last World Cup, and uh, Thailand played Sweden. So I was in Nice and saw the Sweden Thailand game. And again, Sweden definitely had a hold of the game, but towards the very end, Thailand scored against Sweden, and I will tell you, the Swedish fans travel unbelievably. The stadium was packed. It's an awesome fan base, but they were even cheering for Thailand when they scored, because I think it's just that continues to show the growth of the game, and you want teams to have those different opportunities, just so that way they can go back and they say that they had a chance to score, and then hopefully they get back afterwards, and there's more investment into their women's programs to help. But I do think there could be some of those games where just some of the dominance of some countries that have been so established for so long for some of the new ones. But those are going to happen. But as people continue to invest, I think you'll start to see and more of the score lines getting closer and closer.
Actually, it's wild that you were at that game. You said you were at that game?
So
I
I was at the
actually were.
Sweden Thailand. I was not at the U.S. Thailand, but I was there when Sweden played Thailand.
But I referenced that game. Actually, I had a conversation with my family about the very same game where they scored the goal, and it made it was such a symbolic moment that they made that breakthrough. So I mean, while some of those results were tough, they did get something out of it, and they had their moment to celebrate. speaking of like favorite things, that sounds like a good one. But I was going to ask, going into this, what is your favorite edition of the World Cup coming into this one? Like, what's your favorite one that kind of
Oh, that stands
spurred you
out.
on?
Honestly, I think there's a lot of really cool matchups within group play. I think I'm excited to see one that I think is going to be early on is going to be Portugal versus the Netherlands. I don't know why it is, but first Portugal has given me this dark horse vibe. I can't say like this is why that it is, but they've given me some dark horse vibes. So I feel that Portugal Netherlands game is going to be a really good game, especially with it how the group pans out. Um, England has been a team I think that has been so exciting over the last couple of years, especially with how they did in their Euros. They have experienced some injuries, but that's a team that I just think has done so well, and just excited to see. Of some of the I think Canada is another good one coming off of the gold medal in the Olympics. They're very well organized, good defensively. It's just, are they going to have the ability to score some goals? Um, I think it's going to be really fun. I've already started to look ahead. What games am I going to get up early for, and what games am I going to look for? Just look to see the replays.
Yeah, that's a very good point because there's a pretty big time span because there's obviously a lot of different time zones across New Zealand and Australia. So, for reference, USA's games, first one against Vietnam is Friday night at 9 p.m. And then the next game, which I wanted to ask you about, next Wednesday, the 26th, against the Netherlands at 9. And then the third group game is against your dark horse, Portugal, the next Tuesday at 3 a.m. So two really good time slots. One will probably be a highlights at breakfast, sadly.
Right.
But so I guess just looking at that USA group, we talked about Vietnam. We'll see, they're one of the lower ranked teams in the tournament, but Netherlands is a top 10 team. And a USA team that had a lot of injuries, some new players in the group, some on the older end, some already retiring or announced retiring. How do you think USA Netherlands is going to go?
Yeah, I think that's going to be a really good matchup. I think Netherlands has been a team, in the last couple of years, especially at the last World Cup, did so well, and I think we're really hoping to have that more advancement into the final. Didn't get it, and then they've had a few coaching changes in the last couple of years, where their coach from the last World Cup is now coaching England. They had now the Washington Spirit coach Mark Parsons was there, and now is back here in the States. So I think that's probably going to be something that just the camaraderie amongst the coaching staff, because there's been a few changes in the last couple of years. But I do think it's going to be a really good game. Netherlands has some really good players, so that's going to be a really fun one, I think.
Historically, I wanted to ask, what was your favorite tournament like? Just something that stands out to you as a favorite in history that really sticks out in
Yeah.
your memory.
I think the one I have to refer to is probably the '99 World Cup. I remember going. I and we went with my whole soccer team. We all met there, and we tailgated before, and we went into the game. We saw the semifinal, and then the final, and it just was unbelievable to be in the Rose Bowl, completely sold out. Just just an electric crowd. I mean, it was just that just I think anybody like that I talked to that I played college with, or kind of is around, my age, and I'll say it's like 39, like that. I think that everyone was at that final. And so you just remember that, and them winning, and the impact that team, the 99ers, had on so many of us. And, then it kick started our first women's pro league here in the States. And what's so neat is I look at that game, and I think I was, I don't know, 13, 14, around that age. And since then have got become pretty good friends with Brandy Chastain. And so you look back at this like idol that you grew up just, wanting to be like, just had this such a big iconic moment in the women's game. and now she's a coaching colleague, and we've had opportunity to do things like that. So where we've coached some different ODP and different teams. So that's been really cool that you've just seen the evolution of my relationship with a an icon to now I would say a friend.
That's pretty wild. And then I asked you earlier about, was it like seeing players that you coached, playing on the biggest stage? I'm sure that's pretty wild to have a personal relationship with somebody who is one of the probably the ambassadors of the women's game for the country.
Yeah, it's I mean she's so unbelievable, and I think her commitment to um growing soccer, the her involvement, I mean, she's coached at so many different levels. And it's just, she just really loves soccer and wants it to continue to get better and see it grow and see the pro game grow. And um it's been really, really fun to I will say it's pretty neat to say, you can call Brandy Chastain a friend.
Um, Looking kind of at this tournament a little bit, if it's not a USA three-peat, what is an acceptable result, do you think? Because it is a lot to ask a three-peat. Like, what is success in the World Cup, do you think, this time
Yeah,
around?
I think when the U.S. Unfortunately, I think the level of success is to win. I do think that that's become part of our identity as the U.S. Is if you don't win the whole thing, it probably would seem as an unsuccessful tournament. But I also think when you start to look at the makeup of the roster, we have quite a few young players. So I do think we need to probably give ourselves a little bit of grace in terms of their youth, and granted they have a lot of experience when it comes to some of their youth national teams and playing in some professional environments. And they do have caps, but I definitely think it's very realistic to get out of group play. I think to get through a few of the knockout stages. So I think for sure probably the quarterfinals, semifinals, but unfortunately we're the US, and kind of the expectation is to win it, right? So I think that's just kind of part of having that crest on their jersey is you got to carry around that expectation.
Certainly a high bar, but something it seems like a lot of the veterans are willing to grind towards. I'm curious if it's going to be a quiet dismissal. It's kind of wild just being right here moments before it kicks off. It could be a quiet tournament. It could be the best one yet. It could be wild. Like it could be Rapinoe's last dance sort of thing, or maybe not.
Yeah. And I think Rapino has done so much for the game here in the United States, and she's been such a great player. I mean, she's a player I actually played against in college. She probably doesn't remember me, but I for sure remember her, right? She was a part of the University of Portland. And in my senior year, we played the University of Portland two times. We played them in the regular season, and then we played them in the Sweet 16. And on that team, alone was Megan Rapinoe, Christine Sinclair, a couple of other really great, former national team players. And again, I remember playing against them. They probably don't remember playing against me. But so to see what she's done in her career and the impact that she's had on the sport, I hope she gets an opportunity to have a tournament that's, sends her off on a really good note. I think she's playing a completely different role than she's played in past tournaments. And I think she's really accepting and I think will thrive in that role as a veteran to help these younger players and be a real leader. And then just add her specialness when she does get on the field. I think another memorable World Cup was when they were down and she sends the cross in and Abby Wambach heads it in for the goal. I remember sitting on my couch and just losing it when they did that. So hopefully we get another one of those special moments, whether it's probably now to Alex Morgan or something like that. So we'll see, right?
Yeah, that match you're talking about with the cross to the Wambach header. I remember me and my friend were late to something, but we wanted to watch the end, and I think that put it into extra time, and we're like, we're gonna be so late.
Yeah, but that's like, I mean, I think that's the magic of the World Cup, right? Is that you get these moments that it's ingrained in your mind of just awesomeness. So I hope we get more of that.
Of the new faces, who do you think that might be the one that really steps up and announces himself at this level?
I think you're going to probably have two, and they play different roles in the team. I think Sophie Smith up top is definitely one people are excited about. I also think, especially with Becky Sauerbrunn being injured and not able to make the roster due to the injury, I think Naomi Girma is one that's going to be pretty excited to see. And two Stanford, alums, they've played with each other at their college team. So those are two I think have a real great opportunity to step up and make a name for themselves. And so I'm excited to see how both of them do. Yeah, of the newbies, those are definitely the two I'm most excited about.
Yeah, hopefully someone steps up and all the everyone's pre-tournament concerns are just washed away and we see some good stuff from the national team, and then see some new countries, see some new players, and just a gluttony of great play ahead, hopefully. Do you have any other kind of thoughts or predictions you want to throw out there as we're right at the doorstep of the
Yeah, I'm
2023
really
World Cup?
excited for the two home countries. I think with I think Australia and Sam Kerr is going to be a really fun one, and then New Zealand. I was very fortunate when Yika, the head coach for New Zealand, she was here in the States, and she's the one that gave me an opportunity to work with some of our U.S. youth national teams as she was the head coach for the U20s. And so I'm cheering for her. Again, another friend that I have a connection to. So I'm excited for the host countries. I just think, New Zealand and Australia are so excited to host, and I think they're going to be great hosts. It's crazy to think that it's cold there right now, right? Because we're all warm here. So that will be great. I'm always a fan of Germany and Sweden just because they've been two teams that I think have done so well historically. So enjoy watching them. I think Spain's going to be exciting. I think it's kind of similar to how we all were cheering for Messi in the Men's World Cup. Will he win it? It's going to be the same with Marta in Brazil. I think everyone enjoys Marta. She's, again, been such an unbelievable player in the women's game, a player at both sides of the game, right? Like, I mean, she's one of those that transcends the men and the women. So I do think a lot of people will be cheering for Marta, that we sent her off on a really good World Cup. So you probably get a little bit of that's similar with Messi. So I just think it's going to be some really great matchups, and there's always surprises, right? Like you get in the World Cup, and there's going to be ones that you know don't do as well as we think they should, and then there'll be ones that totally surprise us, and that's what's exciting about the World Cup.
Yeah, I have heard that we should look out for Zambia too because they've got some great
I
strikers on their
Here's
side.
another connection. Lisa Cole. She's a coach that I've known that is helping advise. She's not coaching, but she's helping to advise the program and them getting that kind of win with the friendly. I think against Germany. So Zambia is one that's going to be fun. It's just like we could go through each team, and there's always something exciting about all of them.
Well, Jennifer Klein, coach of the University of Michigan women's side, the third ever, may I add, been there since 2018, right?
Yeah, I'm about to start my sixth season, which is absolutely crazy. It doesn't. Sometimes it feels like I've been here 6 years, and other times it feels like I just was here. So I'm excited. We start August 1 is our first practice, so we're getting right there. Nothing like the World Cup to kind of kick us off and motivate us and get us ready for the start of our season.
Well, thank you so much for spending time with Michigan Soccer Central podcast. Maybe we can catch up as the tournament gets to the serious end, if not then, but as the college season is on our doorstep.
Yeah, I would really enjoy that. I think it would be fun to talk and connect, talk World Cup, talk Michigan soccer, whatever it might be.
Thank you so much. Yes, looking forward to it.
Michigan Soccer Central. Michigan Soccer Central Podcast.